Hi, it's Maria, and I'm doing another Forgiveness to Love video, and this is number 14. And this is called 521, a prophetic message, a generational curse, and the mask falls off. And so today is truly a day to celebrate. And for me, I'm in wonderment of the 3 generations in my family that I'm celebrating. And I stand here before you because both have given me the opportunity to stand up for truth. And that's what this whole video series is about. And so the gift is the fact that it is a perfectly designed and orchestrated opportunity set up by the divine for me to speak up and share with you what I have witnessed. And what goes on in families around the world. And around the world, across the globe, however you want to look at it, but all over on this planet. And so May 21st is the anniversary of a family birth and a family death. And my mother, that many of you have heard the other videos that I've done, and I've spoken very freely about my mother having been starved to death. And so my mother, yes, died after 17 days of suffering at the behest of her second daughter. And my mother, was the beneficiary of a very massive fortune. And if any of you have seen any of those videos, you'll know about the crimes that were committed in order to take that money away from its rightful owner. And so it's also the day, though, that I gave birth to my third son, Stephen. And Stephen was named after a great uncle of mine. And Stephen has always been a name that I loved. It's Stephan, Stephanos. In Greek, it means crown. And to all the Steves and Stevies and Stephans and Stevens and Stephanies and Steffies and Stephs, you have a name that signifying royalty. And so take that in and bask in that, massive blessing and that blessed energy. And I think that kind of reminds us to be proud of our name, whether we were named after an ancestor or whether it was just a family name. Well, that would be a family name, or whether it was just a favorite name of one of our parents, or maybe it signified something like if, your parents had this wonderful wild weekend in Savannah, in Savannah, Georgia. And so they named you Savannah, or in Paris and you were named Paris, or whatever. It signifies something. And so, so names are very important. And so anyway, in terms of Stephen, if any of you have seen a Greek wedding, or even my big fat Greek wedding, the priest places the crowns, they're circular crowns, and they have like pearls on them, and there's a ribbon connecting them. And the priest takes these crowns and places them on the heads of the head of the bride and the head of the groom. And then he prays and he crosses them over in the joining of the two in holy matrimony. And so they call them the Stephana. And after the service, after the wedding, they usually keep these, the Stephana, in a wooden box, behind glass. And so I guess some Greek families keep them in the master bedroom or whatever. That's kind of the tradition. But it's interesting because my Stephen was 3 weeks late, and yet the timing was perfect. And so there is no being late, I don't think. He knew just the right time to make his grand appearance into my arms and into our family. And apparently he was quite comfortable. Yes, he was right. He was quite comfortable right here while I looked like a beached whale giving birth to a steroid plumped watermelon, because I was like out to here. Anyway, I couldn't wait for him to arrive. Anyway, he was supposedly due in early May, but um, and that was about the same time that my mother's an involuntary fast began. But they both arrived. Well, anyway, it their momentous entrance and exit happened on May 21st. And so rather than view that day in a negative way, I see the good in it. And I'm reminded that it's a date of celebration. For had it not been for my mother's, gruesome death, I might not have started this video series. And so it's really responsible. It's not just the fluff that I'm talking about here, but it's really responsible that my mother's passing was really responsible for my exposing all the legal struggles that not only thieved her fortune and my inheritance, but in fact, all the legal struggles that I've endured over the last 25 years, and that many, many others have endured as well, be it through divorce or estate or criminal matters or torts or employment law or workman's comp or whatever. There are property, all the legal issues in our lives are ultimately settled. If they are of a certain degree, they're ultimately settled through our legal system. And so I feel very honored to, on the one hand, to say that, oh yes, I've had 25 years of legal entanglements. At the same time, it has allowed me to see things in a very different light, and to see things in a way that I know can benefit humanity in a tremendous way when the focus is on the litigants as opposed to the outcome. When we are truly focused on compassion and doing the right thing for everyone involved. And so anyway, I got off topic a little bit, but yes, my mother was freed from the toxic family that controlled her every breath, or lack thereof, actually, on May 21st. And so I saw that my family had no conscience and or remorse for what they did. Otherwise, they would never have engaged in doing the unthinkable. And how they watched with glee when they were wearing my mother's jewels right in front of her eyes when she was starving. I mean, it was just pitiful. But perhaps, my family, like many, was cursed with, as women were discounted and devalued. And those are called generational curses. And women have been oppressed, suppressed, devalued, humiliated, demoralized, abused for centuries. And thank God now that we are breaking some of those curses as we take our power and we say no more. It's not going to happen under my watch. I won't allow it to happen in my family anymore. Well, I tried, however, because many of our ancestors have been martyred, and family members have used their own family for their own personal gain. It's rather sickening, I'd say. And I saw my grandmother and my nana martyred, and then my own mother, who was basically thrown away by her own child, by her own daughter, who obviously wanted everything, including her life. And so, yes, I witnessed this. And I, for years, have been afraid to speak up and say it. And it's just not acceptable. And because there are so many other people out there who have experienced the same thing, I just have to speak up. And so, and tell the truth. And so, and it's not only for my mother and my mother's mother, it is also for my daughter. And I'm speaking up the truth for me because of all the situations that I have become entangled in. And do I want my daughter to possibly have to suffer through the same things? Absolutely not. And I don't want your daughter to suffer through those things that I've been through either. And so it's a time where we must all join together and we must speak the truth. And as I've said before, people don't want us to speak the truth. And it's been confirmed to me that as I feel ill after eating, my sibling is responsible for both hiring, whether it's local thugs or others or whatever, to enter my residences and to poison my food. And so you see every word I share in my videos regarding what I've experienced seems to create more desperation in them, and for dark individuals who want to keep their crimes hidden. And so I cannot allow that anymore. I have to speak up. And the crimes have been the most torturous crimes against those of us who stand up for truth, because we want to see the good in others, right? Even when they show us their worst. And so it's their worst that we must remember, because that is how they behave. And that is who they are when the mask falls off. And so we need to take off those rose-colored glasses and to assess the situation before us and move forward on that basis. And as hard as I tried to save my mother, I couldn't protect her. And that is the greatest crime of all, because when we see someone we love be abused, and we see them suffering, and we see the injustice in it all, we want to, and we try to, and I know those don't mean anything unless we can accomplish it, unless we're successful. And yet there have been so many societal pressures against our standing up for truth. And we're just supposed to sweep it under the rug. We're just supposed to swallow it. We're just supposed to ignore it and just say, oh, well, and that's just not acceptable. It wasn't acceptable for, given all the racial issues, for African Americans to be so discounted and devalued. It's not acceptable, I think, for the Native Americans. It's not acceptable for the Hispanics. It's not acceptable for any ethnic group. It's not acceptable for any gender. It's not acceptable for any human being. It's not acceptable for any animal either. And so the suffering on this planet has to stop. And so we can move forward in whatever way we can, and do whatever it is we can do in order to help others and to expose the injustices. And so I had no choice but to speak up, because I certainly don't want to see this next generation to go through any of the suffering that personally I have gone through, and that so many others of my generation have gone through. The time's up, right? And so, and in terms of my Stephen, he's been suffering as well, regardless of whether he knows it or not, because of the brainwashing that may have been going on with him, because he's a child of divorce. And children of divorce are, I think, some of the most abused humans on the planet, because it's not about what's in their best interest. It really is one parent pitted against the other. And the children are the victims. The children are the pawns. The children are used to sacrifice. They are sacrificed in order to hurt another, to hurt a former spouse. And so, even in terms of my Stephen, all of my efforts, all of my attempts to communicate with him have fallen on deaf ears. And I just wanted to let him know that his mother loves him more than any other human being on the planet could possibly love him. And so it's time to put an end to that shit show where dark forces manipulate and intervene in some of our most sacred relationships, right? Can you even imagine who would even think that they have any business, much less the right, to come between a mother and a child or a father and a child? In fact, the best children revere and honor their wonderful parents. And they understand and appreciate the sacrifices that we adults, that we parents make for our children. And as well they should, because when they become parents, they will hopefully realize just how much they were so unconditionally loved. And, of course, we all make mistakes, right? And yet when we come from a pure heart and we're doing the best we can, then you just say to yourself, oh, I've done the best I can, and I've given you my all, and I never learned how to be a parent, but everything I do with love for you. And love really is the bottom line, And yet some children, for instance, in my family, one of my mother's children, her other child, said, oh, I'm going to steal everything that my mother has, and then brainwash that child. Brainwash that child to watch his grandmother and grandfather mercilessly die. And his mother, he'll never see his mother again. And so you're not allowed to talk to her, and you're not allowed to help her in any way, because her fortune has been stolen, and I'm going to give you a little bit of it every once in a while, just to keep you quiet and keep you separated from your own mother. And I think, oh my God, can anything be any crazier than that? That's just an opportunity for us to learn how to stand up for ourselves, right? And to see what really matters most in our lives. Because as both a mother and a daughter, the roles I've most embraced, and the roles that many of us have most embraced, those of us who are mothers and who are daughters, our most beloved souls are our children and our parents. And so both of those have been ripped from my arms by a sibling who maliciously sought to destroy them and me. And so that only someone on the inside could have really maneuvered that one and infiltrated the family unit and the estate, if you will, and tried to do so much damage to kind and loving family members. And it was like a cancer, really, because it just destroyed everything that it touched. And so, right now, my mother and my son, what they did is they transitioned into different dimensions from what they were before, right? On the exact same date of the year. And so one transitioned into the physical, right? And the other one transitioned out of the physical. And so one left the world while the other one arrived. And I certainly hope that both of them were welcomed into loving arms. right? So I also realized that when I think of May 21st, I realized that there was another connection that I had, and I think it was prophetic because I didn't really understand it. But when I was like in third or fourth grade, one of my friends and I, people were doing Pig Latin. They were speaking Pig Latin. Well, for some reason, first of all, it wasn't a secret code, right, or a language because other people knew Pig Latin. Your friends did, and so we just thought we'd do like hand signals or something, And I sat on one side of the courtroom, and she sat on the other. Courtroom. No, no, no. The third grade classroom. And so we do like hand gestures or something. And so finally we decided that we would you do a finger gestures. And it wasn't the finger that you're thinking of. I was only 8 or 9 years old. But we thought like if something was funny, we would do this, and or if something was worthy of our attention, we'd hold up fingers in code, and the code was 521. So what we do, is we go 5, and then we go 21, and then we'd start to giggle. And so it was 521. And we just thought that was hilarious. And honestly, I can't tell you what it meant or whatever, but I find it rather prophetic because was it, some type of a knowing that was going to be a very significant date in my life? I don't know. It's kind of interesting when you think back on different things that you had messages about or that you thought about, and then all of a sudden they came true, or the deja vu. A lot of times I'm saying something and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I remember being exactly in this spot saying the exact same things, and I know what's going to happen next. Oh my gosh. And so anyway, do you ever remember that? I think that's just wild. I think it's amazing. And so that was just a funny little joke for girls. And so in honor of my mother and my third son, I'm sharing this day with you because although I can't physically be with my mom, I can be there energetically. And so can you with deceased relatives. We communicate with them. And sometimes when we get an idea and we think, oh, we should go here, it's where did we get that idea? It could be, our ancestors on the other side that are guiding us because that's in our best interest to go that way. And it's really important, like in the first thing in the morning, and I've heard this from mediums and psychics and things like that, is if first thing in the morning, before you even open your eyes, if you, whatever you think of, pay close attention to that, because truly just prior to that you were in a different dimension, and so where things are more clear than they are in this heavy dense um, third dimensional density, right, of planet Earth, where we are physical in the physical, right? And so anyway, yeah, let's see, what else can I tell you? That well, talking about the third dimension, there is a lot of insanity going on our planet right now. Something just showed up on my phone, and it was talking about another mass shooting. Things are crazy. People have lost it, and the pressure for people, the financial pressure, the economic pressure, the just the horrific, the 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 grief and the despair is just so horrible for so many. And so we just need to stay in the light and hold on to that light as tight as possible and see the good in ourselves and in others, and yet hold our boundaries firm. And so, sometimes I think about when are we in the matrix, and so I think, oh well, we could surely use Keanu Reeves right about now, right? And so there's really no choice, because we must be aware of where we are and our situation. And so think about your prophetic messages, if you've had them, and if what they were to signify to you. What was the communication, if in fact it was from your own mother who passed away, who's guiding you and loving you, and is so very proud of you right now. So um, cherish the memories. And in all of these forgiveness to love videos, I'm sharing with you my truth. And as we continue to learn more about standing strong and knowing who you are, please believe me when I tell you that all is not lost. It sounds like it feels like it, especially when we turn on the news. But really, um, we are facilitating our healing on a very, very deep level, and we are creating, in however baby steps, a life of joy as we kind of go through these struggles and come out the other end. Then we are able to bask in that glory and understand that anything is possible for us to create. And so whether you want to create, things or people or relationships or abundance or, well, my favorite is smiles, laughter, and giggles, because I think when you have that, then you've really got everything. And so I thank you for being here. And I urge you to see things with your eyes wide open and your heart opened as well. And so until the next video, I just want to tell you that I really, really love you. And I am so appreciative for your presence in my life. And so I thank you, and I wish you a beautiful evening.